give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA draft fans? Your boys are back, the Wolves of Wall Street, your favorite draft analyst. My name is Corey Tullivan, and I am here, as always, with my co-host, Albert Garbage Time Gim. But Albert, we have a very special guest today here on the No Ceilings NBA podcast. We have the Ringer's very own Tate Frazier joining us. Tate, man, appreciate you coming on. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I hope you guys are doing well. It's a great time of year. We got rigging, allegations everywhere. We got a lot of people talking about what teams fit with who, what players fit with who. We got measurements. We got actual playoff basketball. It's a great time of year. So happy to talk about it all. And there is a lot of minutia to get through. So I'm happy to work through it and sift through it with you guys. So you know what you're talking about. So we'll have some fun.
We're very excited. You kind of hinted at it. The basketball world has been just ablaze over the last 24 hours or so with the draft lottery reactions. Were you watching it live with the rest of us? And what was your reaction as we realized that these three teams who, just leapfrogged all of the bottom dwellers as that was happening?
Yeah, the top three, the biggest losers of the weekend. Shout out to the Hornets, shout out to the Wizards, shout out to the Jazz. All of their misery was not worth it. I'm a Hornets fan, so I say that. I commiserate. It's unfortunate to see. Obviously, the powers that be do not care about the top three because they now sit at 4, 5, and 6, right on the outside. I think a lot of people have said it's a top 4 draft, right? Maybe 4 guys go number 1 in last year's draft. I kind of think it's more of a top 2 draft. So regardless, those 3 teams all got screwed, right? And that's unfortunate. But yeah, my first reaction was Cedric Perkins in that chair. I couldn't believe how high he was in that chair. We learned after the fact, I guess we always knew this, but like the balls are actually dropped in front of a closed room.
Yep.
So all of what we saw on television is actually the second time, and everybody knows the results already. So that makes the whole thing even funnier when you think about the fact that everyone out there is acting like Daryl Morey is trying to be a meme. I don't know, like that makes it funnier to me. The whole process is interesting. The Mavs 1.8%, we'll always think about it. But when we think about the draft lottery, we always have these conspiracy theories. It started day one with Patrick Ewing. Obviously, I always think about Chicago, Derrick Rose. I mean, that was 1.7%. Yeah. And it felt like, oh, yeah, this is definitely the fix is in, right? They say you can't rig. EY says you can't rig. The powers that be that are in that room say you can't rig it. But it does feel like a miracle. And boy, have we seen a lot of miracles. So, my reaction is that another miracle. How many miracles until we wonder what's going on? I don't know. But we got another one, and it's going to the Mavericks.
With that being said, Tate, you being a lifelong Hornets fan, wanted to kind of get your take on where you're at mentally. Obviously, like beyond the fact that you're not getting the pick that you thought you might get, and you're definitely not getting Cooper Flagg in a Hornets jersey. Where do you think they're gonna go? How are you feeling beyond that sadness, and kind of who are some guys that you're targeting and trying to get excited about now?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, look, I'll say this. I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan. The Charlotte Hornets left in 2002. What we have now is the Charlotte Bobcats. Now, we have masqueraded them around for the last decade as the Hornets. We have tried to create and drum up some of the energy of the Hornets, but the Hornets were killed, and the Hornets that I loved and grew up with are dead, and they are some sort of bastardized version in New Orleans. But regardless, we didn't get Anthony Davis. We didn't get Zion Williamson. I think if both those guys went to Charlotte, they have totally different careers. They get traded to the Lakers earlier, probably. But regardless, the Charlotte Hornets journey is the journey that we are on. I think VJ Edgecombe is a guy that they really like, and I think he will be there at 4. Trey Johnson is someone I personally really like. I like him at number 4, but for who they have and what they have Brandon Miller, they have LaMelo Ball. VJ would be a great number 2 right there and matching that backcourt. Could play defense, could be a cutter, could be a spark plug. So they have good options at number 4, but again, it's way more enticing if you have someone like Cooper Flagg. The league's going to back him. USA Basketball is going to back him. Yep. New Balance is going to back him. So, you had a lot of things that would have been great for Charlotte. It felt like the media kind of wanted Charlotte to get it. They felt bad for him because, again, everyone kept saying the Hornets haven't won a playoff series since 2002. That's not true. The Bobcats have never won a playoff series. And that's what this team is. So, they deserve number one, but, you'll settle for 4. And VJ is very talented. Trey's very talented. There's a lot of talented players in this draft. So that's the positive spin.
So Kemba Walker, Charlotte Bobcat.
Charlotte Bobcat. I mean, look, we can spin it how we want. I wish they were the Carolina Cougars. That's my favorite team. Shout out to the ABA. But, it is what it is. I think that Hornets fans have done a good job trying to spin it positively. And we do love Brandon Miller. I will say that. Okay. I think we all love Brandon Miller. I think he is a basketball guy who can be your number 2, number 3 guy. They're still looking for number 1. I personally believe LaMelo, maybe. But that's still TBD at this point. But Hornets fans, they're going to be all right.
I mean, the talent has never been the question with LaMelo. I think everyone can see that the raw, just natural ability that he brings. I've always compared him to kind of like a freestyle rapper, where it's like, I know that he's got the craziest bars, but like, can he make a hit song? Can he put it together? Right. Do you think that Charles Lee has kind of the mentality and juice to kind of get LaMelo? Can he produce a hit song with LaMelo?
Yeah, that's like putting John Legend with Future. You know what I mean? When you talk about, the matches of personalities there, I do think that's why people look, I'm not a Hornets. I'm not in the, Hornets hive. I'm not out here fighting on these streets for, there's a lot of great commentators in the Hornets world. They get upset. I said last year they should trade LaMelo at the start of this season. I think they should sell high on him. And it just goes back to like what they have, what he's done, the personality match there. But Charles Lee could do anything, and LaMelo is so talented. He could be great in Charlotte, and he seems to be okay in Charlotte and like Charlotte. So I hope he is great. I'm pulling for him. But Charles Lee is a button-up guy. It does feel like the organization is getting more put together. They do feel like they have a grand plan. The Michael Jordan iteration is gone. This is a new era. So I'm encouraged by what we see. It does feel like that the Hornets have decided to buy into the Duke of it all. Like they are going to be Duke basketball. And, that's a good, group to buy in with. CAA, Duke, Nike. That's a good trifecta. That's a good triple threat right there. So it's a smart move. I like the direction that they're moving right now.
No doubt. And I think the problem with LaMelo, right, is always, like you said, it's kind of like who's steering the ship. And that's why Cooper Flagg is that kind of generational prospect that we talk about, right? It's because it's not just the talent, it's the everything that comes along with it, owning that. What did you think about like him coming in as a reclassified freshman and kind of just like owning the fact that he was the face of college basketball? I mean, you are like, college basketball guru. Where does he stack up like as the face of college basketball coming in and just kind of owning it, and especially like in this era that we're in, with where young guys really are, I think, going to struggle to be the face of that sport?
I think he was better than advertised. And I feel like if you weren't watching, you probably think he underperformed in some way, because some of the biggest stages, he did have some of these gaffes that are noteworthy, right? Whether it's the Kentucky game, the Clemson slip, the Houston debacle, right? So there's going to be some moments where people point to and say, hey, I thought this guy was supposed to be the best and he choked, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he's the most complete player we've seen as a freshman at Duke. He is literally the reason why Duke was where they were. I thought it was a bit of a joke that there was this argument within college basketball about like him versus Janai Broom. Janai Broom was great in the non-conference, but Cooper Flagg was no doubt about it. The 5-tool complete player, best defensive player. I think everybody that watched could see that it's right there in front of you. If anything, he's more reserved about it. He really doesn't want to tell you about it. On the court, he does talk a lot, though. I went to the Carolina Duke game. I hear him talking. Knipple was more of the silent assassin, but they're both just very smart, high IQ, can do a lot of different things. Like you say red, they know that you're going to switch. Like these guys are smart. They know how to play basketball at a very high level. And, and you throw in the fact that like he's not afraid of the moment, and I feel like he's going to get more and more confident because, like you said, he's a very young kid. I think even when they had him on the draft lottery show right after Dallas gets it, he's still very much kind of like Derrick Rose was. It's
business.
like, yeah, business. Yes, sir. No, ma'am.
Yeah.
Wherever I go, I'm happy to go. I love the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think he's going to be a great fit wherever. And like I said, if you watch like these casual moments, maybe you don't buy into Cooper Flagg, but if you watched all the games, you see he's the real deal.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be big for USA basketball.
Yeah, and Tate, I think first off, kudos to you putting on a brave face the way that you just talked about a Duke player. I'm sure that was
man,
really.
I'm used to it at this point. It was like the 2000, like the 90s were great. The 2000 to 2010, it was almost like a fair sparring match. It was like hands, bro, Redick. You know, you can go back and forth. But yeah, the 2010s it's been a lot of Duke. So I'm used to giving them their credit. They don't like when I give them their credit. They don't like to give it back. But you know what I mean? I do my best.
But I will say, yeah, no, great job with that. But a name that you mentioned, Concanipple. Right. Oof. A name that is rising up draft boards. We're seeing his name in top fives. Some people think he's in the conversation for 3. He's all over the place. He's someone that obviously you've gotten to see in person. Wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on him. Obviously, you know, we're just torturing you, asking you to talk about another Duke guy. But with Con, he's such an interesting prospect, a guy that is just an absolute lights out shooter. The things that he can do with the ball in his hands, even, you know, as you know, Corey and I on our pod, when we talked about Duke this year, we were like, man, the way that Cooper and Con were able to run that offense without a true point guard, and how far they made it with just them two kind of making a lot of the decisions. How do you view Con? What do you feel like he's going to be on the next level? How that like kind of translates? Obviously, he's not like a freak athlete or anything, but he's got some really elite skills. And so just wondering how that translates to the NBA level and what you think that might look like wherever he ends up.
Yeah, I feel like they're both in their own way 5-tool guys, creator, shooter, cutter, defender, rebounder, right? That's what they do. That's what they can do. They're also really smart, and they can expose mismatches. I think the problem with Knipple, right? I didn't see the official measurements for him, but I assume T-Rex arms, right? Like that's probably the knock on him. You're just like, can we really take a guy at number 3 that has short arms, especially when there's guys like a Drake Powell and, you know, Cedric Coward who have these ridiculous wingspans who are sitting there right in front of you. But Con Knipple is, if you watch Cooper Flagg, you inherently are going to watch Con Knipple, and you're probably going to come away saying, damn, Cooper kind of needs a Knipple next to him. Not needs, but I mean, he is like activated when he has a player like that next to him. And Knipple can fit into a lot of different spots. I could definitely see, you know, Utah at 5, right? Why would they not like Con Knipple? That feels like a perfect fit. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like top 5 is definitely in the range of possibility. He's a great player. I think he almost didn't get talked about enough because of Flagg. And again, if you watch the games, you can see like Con Knipple could carry them. When Cooper Flagg got hurt, Con Knipple started playing his position. Think about that, you know? This guy's versatile, and he's 6'5", so he's a tough nut. That's what Roy Williams used to call guys tough little nuts. He's a tough little nut. You know what I mean? That's who Con Knipple is, and going to be great wherever he goes. That's what I think. That's what I would feel good about, like a guy that like is not situational with Con Knipple. He's going to go in, he's going to fit in, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, we mocked him to Utah in our mock draft that came out today, actually. And I mean, I don't know what it is about Con Knipple. It just seems like a seamless fit. Who could ever put 2 and 2 together there? I don't know.
Wojo coaches the G League team, so like if they want to activate Con Knipple and Kyle Filipowski and let the Duke boys cook out there, I think that'd be a great thing for the for the G League team. That'd be great.
Now, before we get back into the draft and whatnot, I kind of want to like pick your brain about, how you kind of got into the grassroots stuff, the college stuff, like where your love for all of this came from. Like for anybody who doesn't know, Tate put together a fantastic podcast called The World of 5 Star. And, like you're a college basketball guy, but it starts before college, right? You know, we hung out a little bit at the McDonald's All-American game this year. And so where do you kind of start your process with these guys? How early, how deep in the weeds are you getting with these guys as grassroots prospects?
Yeah, thanks for saying that. It's very kind. It's one of those things. I was 10 years old. To give you a little background, I was 10 years old, 2003. There was a guy who was about to set the high school scoring record in North Carolina. His last name was Curry. And no, it's not Stephen Curry. It's Jamison Curry. And he was going to go play at North Carolina, but he was going to break my great uncle's scoring record, who had the basketball scoring record in North Carolina. So my whole family, we went down. We watched Jamison Curry at Eastern Alamance break my great uncle's record. They had a nice little moment. They, swapped jerseys, did the whole thing. It was the first time I ever heard the song Yeah by Usher and Little John.
Big moment in your life.
Banger.
10 years old, great moment in history. But at the time, you're just like, yo, there's this kid. He's a 5-star. He's going to go play at North Carolina. He's breaking my great uncle's record. I already, heard a lot of stories from, Pistol Pete stories, Art Heyman stories, right? So just grew up Tobacco Road basketball, baseball, football, all that sort of stuff's kind of in my backyard. Art Heyman recruited my great uncle and kind of stayed in our town for 2 weeks. Old coach at Duke way back in the day, funny enough. So anyways, that's kind of like the end. My family, my mom, dad, both went to North Carolina. My mom graduated in 1982 when they won the championship. Jordan hit the shot, Dean Smith's first title. You know what I mean? So I'm indoctrinated. Let's just be honest. So I'm just indoctrinated in that. Yeah, it's a cult. And I played basketball my whole life, played baseball. You know what I mean? We're just like a sports family. This is what we talk about. This is how we get along. And even like right next to me right now is like, you're talking about that. Like I have Bob Gibbons, like the Bob Gibbons, like old reports, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I read them just like as nostalgic. So, I just grew up loving this stuff. I nerd out about it. When I met Bill Simmons, the first time, he and I talked about the ABA for like an hour as I was unloading boxes with him. And he's just like, why is this little 20-year-old or whatever, 22-year-old at the time, why does he know this stuff about Doug Moe? You know what I mean? Like, why does he care about this? And it's like, I had family connections. And then it was just kind of like, I love stories. I love storytelling with basketball. So yeah. And then once the 5-star opportunity, Jamal Henderson at Spring Hill, LeBron ended up executive producing that project. So they obviously wanted to tell a story of 5-star. It's supposed to be a documentary. My production company, we did that all together. It was like a co-production type thing. I mean, there's just so many great stories. So we turned it into a podcast series. I still want to turn it into a TV series. We're working on some stuff with that. I would love to see someone like Adam Sandler play Garf. You know what I mean? Like Garf is the greatest basketball character ever. And like that camp is where, gyms from Moses Malone to Michael Jordan. I mean, there's just so many like legendary 5-star stories, and obviously ABCD camp as well. I'm working on some stuff with that. So I love all those stories. The McDonald's game is incredible. The history. I love connective tissue. I love when the game is connected. I think we're all a lot more alike than we are different. I think there's great stories. And I think every single time we think we see something new, we're seeing something we've seen before. And if we just ask the older generation, I promise you they'll give you the game and we'll be wiser for it. So I love connecting the two things. The history can inform the future. And it's nice to have a good present where we got great basketball. And boy, do we have some great basketball. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah. I think that, there's so much information coming at all these young kids nowadays. Like It feels like there needs to be more of that teaching the history of the game. Cause I see like on Twitter, I see all of these, young kids who are like really smart kids. Right. But then they'll like tweet something out about something that's happening. Like it's the first time it's ever happened. And I'm just like, this happened 10 years ago.
Right.
Like
John Starks did that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like that's I know this Jason Tatum injury sucks. Like imagine what it was like for the Bulls fans who didn't win the title the year before when Derrick Rose went down. The history of the game, for sure. So let's talk about somebody who you mentioned when you were going through the crazy measurements, because we made you talk about Duke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
I want to hear though your perspective on Drake Powell, who played at North Carolina as a freshman, local kid, right? And he's testing this whole NBA draft thing. Where do you see him as a pro? What did you see from him this year? What do you think his ceiling is? He's a really intriguing prospect because of the measurements and the tools and whatnot. what's the likelihood he puts it all together?
Yeah, I love Drake Powell. I love his defensive intensity. The man can sit down in a defensive stance and is willing to sit down in that stance. I think the athletic, just natural gifts are very tangible, as we've seen at the combine with his vertical leap. I mean, it's special. His instincts are special, especially defensively. I think offensively, he is very much a project. I don't think it's anyone's best interest to kind of put the ball in his hand and say, hey, Drake, go create for us. That is not who he is. But as a catch and shoot guy, as a defensive guy, I think he can be a good 2-3. Maybe he can switch onto some bigs if you need him to. He probably needs to put on 15 more pounds. I saw he weighed in at like 200, so he can get bodied around and moved around a little bit, maybe. But who else? Ace Bailey was 200 pounds, which is crazy. He's going to get moved around, so he's got to put on 15 pounds probably. So just in general, Drake, I think, is really talented. It sounds like he got some sort of, hey, you're going to be taken by us deal. So he knows like something's on the table. I assume it's someone like Brooklyn, but who knows? Utah, one of these teams. But I think a lot of teams like Drake. I think he was supposed to be a lottery guy. Teams still buy into those grades, even though the grades change. And I do feel like a team in the late first rounds going to take a swing on him, and probably a team that has a bunch of picks like Brooklyn. So I think Drake will be fine. I don't think he's going back to North Carolina, nor do I feel like that would make his draft status really go up. I think everybody kind of knows what he is right now.
You mentioned the fact that like offensively, he's a bit of a project, right? We could say that he's raw. He's got some work to do. In your opinion, when it comes to something that Corey and I talk about a lot is like projecting, right? Like how do we watch so much college basketball, high school basketball, overseas stuff. It's still, there is still no perfect equation or perfect science in terms of figuring out how these guys end up projecting to the next level. With someone like Powell, right? Like the idea with him is, we get it. He defensive beast, good measurables, really good athlete. But then the offense, right, is the big question for you, even beyond Powell. How do you quantify that? Like, how do you look at these kids and think, okay, like I feel like he's going to figure it out. He's going to become a good offensive player. That projection part of it, are there certain things that you're looking for when you're watching a player that, kind of gives, it could be a tell for you that makes you believe that, oh, he's going to figure it out on the next level?
Yeah, I believe in production and I believe in growth. So like if you already have production, then we're already winning. You play defense, you rebound, we're up. Everybody's happy. You grow and get better, and I see the growth, and it's like almost an exponential type growth in real time. Kobe White at North Carolina, perfect example. This guy goes in, and then like by December, you're like, this is unreal. This guy's unbelievable. Yeah. And then by February, you're like, is this the best guard I've ever seen at North Carolina? Like, what in the hell is this? That is like that is like special type talent trait, whatever you want to call it. I think Drake has that work ethic. I think he has that good grounding. You can never measure what's in a man's heart. Obviously, that is the problem with the draft process. But I think knowing Drake, knowing his family, knowing his roots, knowing his kind of instincts, you would have to assume that he's a guy who's going to work really hard. And I feel like if you go to somewhere that's going to like let him grow into who he's going to become as a player, he's going to be in a good situation. And I feel like that's why I keep going back to Brooklyn. It's like, that's a clean slate place. And I think you can grow there. And, they're going to be, forming their new group of guys, and you can be in that group. So that would be the pitch for Drake. And defense translates, and rebounding, So that's good stuff.
His defense really impressed me. I saw them against UCLA. And if you want, we can have Albert talk about Ade Mara and his love for Ade Mara for the next 20 minutes.
Oh, man. I wonder what Mick Cronin thinks about him right now.
But Drake really impressed me just from like the nuances of defense. Like it's easy for like athletic, long, guys to defend on the ball, but like just his kind of buy-in off the ball, being in the right spots, rotating. I was impressed, especially because like when you're not, when you are talked about preseason, like I'm going to be a lottery pick, and then you kind of find yourself in a role where maybe you're not like getting to cook, all the time.
But isn't that hard on young guys? You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
I think he's like better jump shot Michael Kidd Gilchrist or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's and maybe he doesn't wouldn't want to hear that comparison probably, but I think that Drake is just like not built to be this number one initiator, creator.
Right.
That's not who he is as a player. That's not who he is mentally in his makeup. So if you let him be a part of a core and you get that number one guy, I feel like he's a great compliment as like your 3, 4. Maybe he could end up being like the best number 4 option in the league, like how Michael Porter was when they won the championship a couple years ago. It's like this guy's your best number 4 in the league. It's like a lottery talent, but he's your 4th option. That's a good situation to be in right now. Obviously, he's all injured and everything, but that's what I feel like Drake could be in a best case scenario.
Yeah, kind of maybe the DeAndre Hunter role, in Cleveland, where he's just playing off of all those creators.
I like him as a 2. I mean, I see a lot of people obviously as a small forward, but like I feel like I would like to go bigger. You know what I mean? Like let's just go big. Let's go tall. Like
tall and long.
Small ball's dead. Anthony Edwards literally said that to the Warriors last night. He said, "You're dead. I killed you. I slayed you. We are tall ball, and we are moving on. Tall teams win titles." That's what they said in Golden State. And again, I don't think it's fair because Steph's not out there, but it was said. A message was sent. So,
well, another of Albert's favorites, Julius Randle, just absolutely putting in work in the playoffs here.
Oh man.
31,
like what a beast. Triple double. Can't believe it.
Just diamond dudes up. Now the other guy though, we say that's not Drake's personality, and it's interesting, watching the Brooklyn Nets, you keep going back to them because they have like 1,000 picks.
Poor Brooklyn. Let's hope they did make the promise, because they're gonna be like, what the hell is this guy?
But they just put out they're putting out like a documentary series called Scout, and one of the things from the first episode that I thought was interesting is they make mention of like the difference between 16 game players and 82 game players. And I think there's kind of a parallel there between what Drake Powell kind of could project to be, where I think, you're kind of looking at him like he could be a 16 game player, just a guy who, like you said, he doesn't need to go get his offense to be really effective in a playoff setting, versus another guy who played for North Carolina this year, Ian Jackson.
Oof, let's talk about it.
Maybe might fall more into, for where he is right now in his development, might fall more into that 82 game player basket. But he is going to a new spot, to my Johnnies.
Yeah.
Playing for a legendary coach who has completely revigorated the energy in New York towards that program.
He took credit for the Knicks playoff win. He was like right there hugging Patrick Ewing. Incredible. I loved it.
So you got a chance, through your podcast to kind of talk to him, right? Pick his brain a little bit.
Right.
What does he do for Ian this year? Like, is it possible that he can kind of, because he's a no nonsense guy and he does not.
Oh yeah.
He's not going to care about any kind of ego rankings, whatever. He's gonna do what he does. Can Pitino get the best out of him? Because we saw flashes. He had that 6 game stretch where he was like 20 every game, right? Just lighting the net on fire. So can Rick get the best out of him?
Absolutely. And Ian Jackson is just like a mentally built scorer. Like this is a guy that like gets a basketball in his hand and is like, I am going to go score the ball. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm born to do. It's beautiful to watch when he's in flow. It's beautiful to watch when he's in motion and he just can go. And I think North Carolina, this season, RJ Davis is there. Elliot Cadeau. There's a lot of people that need the ball in their hands. And I do feel like Ian Jackson, kind of was the third guy. He was the odd man out, so to speak, in that situation of who's going to have the basketball in their hands. I think that Texas is going to reap the rewards of what Rick Pitino did to Sim Wilcher. I think that Ian Jackson is going to come to the Pitino School of Basketball. And I think this is a bold prediction. But if St. John's does what I think they're going to do next year, because Zuby's coming back, and I think Zuby's a nice piece because they can switch everything, right?
Yeah.
I love him at the 5. I think it's a nice, like he can play 5 big, but he also can play small ball 5. It's a beautiful combination, great touch, great feel. We love Zuby. If they do go on a run and they go to the Final Four, I think that Ian Jackson could have like a Walter Clayton Jr. type, like he's back into the late first round conversation, right? Where he just is that good of a scorer. It doesn't really make sense. It's like, are we really going to give give this guy the keys to our team. I know this doesn't seem right, but man, is it so tantalizing. He's just so fun and so good. So I think defensively he will be better. I think he will be held accountable. I think he will be coached better. I think he will be coached harder, and I think he's going to have a great year. So I really like Ian's whole kind of just approach to the game. I think he was kind of, he was treated fine. I shouldn't say treated, but I'm happy that he is in this situation, and I think he will flourish. So it'll be good.
You mentioned his skill set and what he can do, and also like you mentioned the personality with him. When Corey and I met him at the Hoop Summit, that was already last year, right, Corey? Am I tripping?
Yeah, 2024 Hoop Summit.
Yeah. When we met him there, he was so charismatic. Just the energy with him, like big smile, tons of eye contact. Like you could just tell, like he's been around a lot of people, unlike some other kids you meet, and like just great social skills. And you're like, oh,
Elijah Arenas is the same way. Who was, at the McDonald's game this year. It's like him and Ian have a similar, like you're saying, like they've been around people. They look you in the eye. They talk to you. They're comfortable having a conversation. They have kind of this natural charisma. It's cool to see.
Might not pass the ball that much. Yeah, there's a lot in common.
Right. Exactly.
But with Ian, obviously, like he's got the charisma. He's got the attitude that you're looking for, right? But the skill set you mentioned, right? The type of dynamic offensive player that he is. Is there someone that I know you mentioned Walter Clayton, but I think you were talking more like situation and what might end up happening. But in terms of like an actual comp, who does he kind of remind you of in terms of his game? Because once again, like he didn't have the best situation this past year to like fully kind of spread his wings and show what he's capable of. But next year, with the Johnnies, maybe he'll be able to really show what he's made of. And so just wondering for you, who does he kind of remind you of in terms of his game and a nice comp for him?
That is a great question. He's a little bit bigger, but maybe like Rod was a better point guard, but like a Rod Strickland in some ways, you know what I mean? Like he's like, but not, I don't know how to, like, he's just a New York point guard. I guess that's why I think of like a Rod Strickland, like Kenny Smith, you know what I mean? Like any of these guys, like he's just like a New York City point guard that, he doesn't want to play inside. He wants to play outside, and he wants to have the win. So none of these guys can shoot, and he's going to drive on everybody and score 40 points and be like, I'm the best player. That kind of feels like Ian's vibe. And maybe he's a little bit more country club than that, but I don't know. That's just that New York City point guard. That's how they all kind of give off that steez, So I don't really have like a natural comp because he is more of like a Gen Z scorer than some of these other, New York old guys, but he does have their DNA. And I think that's why they all like him. You know what I mean? Like, that's why every single time you talk to any of these guys, they're just like, we're pulling for Ian. We're glad he's back in New York. And I think that helps too, guy that knows New York City, guy that's going to feel comfortable in New York City. And like Patino's going to push his buttons. And I think that'll be good for him, Like, we'll test that charisma real quick when Rick Pitino threatens to kill himself after a loss. You know what I mean? Like, this will be good. Oh man, the best.
He truly is, man. Look, it's been my entire life I've been waiting for this moment. So whatever tricks he wants to pull, I'm here for it.
All right, great.
Now, we can talk about the draft combine and from the perspective of like these guys are going to be going off and playing in the NBA, but that's not the case for every player that's there.
Yeah.
Who are like the big, like, these are the guys that are, whatever their decision is, staying or going, can actually like shake the landscape of college basketball next year. And in your heart of hearts, you're kind of like, man, he's going to be a great pro one day, but for the sport I love, I'm hoping he pulls out.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And honestly, I was looking at this earlier. I was looking at the rookie pay scale because I wanted to see like what the number is. So if you're one of these guys who's like late first round, early second round, like you're going to get 2.6 to 3.2 million in college coming back value wise. Your Lindeborg or your Cedric Coward, right? I mean, you're getting $2.5 to $3.5 million in that range. So like 19.
Or if you're JT Toppin.
Right. Right. 4 if you're JT Toppin, right? I mean, 7 if you're Boogie Flan, reportedly. He's not getting that, but I do like the reportedly. It's like allegedly. You just say anything. You're like with NIL, nobody knows, and half the time they don't pay. Just ask Florida State, and you know what I mean. Like that's just the world that we live in. There are no rules, and it's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, Thomas Sorber is really one for Georgetown, right? Obviously, he's got great measurables, and I assume he will stay in the draft. But Sorber did not put his name in the portal. If he does come back, Georgetown, Ed Cooley, he's trying to bring the sauce back. The Big East has got the Pope.
Back, baby.
Yeah, right. They got the Ian Jackson. They got the Pope. They got probably the biggest villain in the sport right now, Kevin Willard, who's at Villanova, which is incredible. You got Creighton, who's got like a successor plan now, and Alan Huss is there. So you got like one of the best coaches at a mid-major now joining a high. Like the Big East is going to be fascinating. So Sorber going back would be big. That's a big name to keep in. Coward, I think, is already done, right? I mean, Coward, there's people were telling me Coward's like top 12, top 10.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. So, I mean, so if that's the case, he's not going back to Duke. So that's a big deal that he's going to stay in the draft. Boogie Flan's out. Isaiah Evans is out, right? So those are big ones that were kind of like floating around. PJ Haggerty, who I assume is going to go to NC State, play for Will Wade. Yeah. That's a fascinating one at some level. Yeah. Trying to think if there's some other ones. I mean, Drake is one, Drake Powell, but he's going to stay in by all accounts. Most of these guys are going to stay in, it sounds like. But again, Uzan for Houston, that's a good one. Uzan said that if he does not get guaranteed money, a contract, then he will go back to Houston. If Uzan goes back to Houston, they'll probably be preseason number one, I would assume, just off that peg. Sorry, I lost my pin. And if so, he would probably be the biggest one that's like still contemplating, because Uzan was great this year and obviously one game short for Houston. So that would probably be the biggest one. That's a big fish.
That's one. That's one I didn't really think of top of mind, but I mean the leap he made this year, and you know. That Houston team, what can you say? Like, they need a guy like that. How many like 6'7" with a 7'4" wingsman forwards can you possibly have without a guy who can, you know, dice teams up and shoot from the outside? Like, you need somebody like him.
Yeah, I talked to a Houston assistant like three years ago or so, and I asked them about like philosophy, and they were like, "We like wide," and you know, and you know what I mean. And like, if you really think about their team, like it is like wide. You know, everything's wide. It's not really it's more width, so it checks out. But yeah, he's a big one. That's a big one. I mean, in college sports now, it's like it's almost more guaranteed money to go to college or go back to college.
Yeah.
So if you're past like the 25th spot or something, you should probably go back to college if you're getting $4 million, $3 million, $2.8+ million, and your agent will tell you what to do. But that's another thing to keep in your back pocket, where college is actually the guaranteed money as opposed to professional basketball. Who would have thought? I mean, what a world we live in.
College athletes getting paid? What?
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you see, like Alex Caravan. Like, there's a guy like you know he's got nothing really left to prove at the college level. He's a guy who traditionally would just, all right, my time's up, let me go. He comes back.
Right.
Guaranteed money. He's got to make that decision a little bit easier. Do you think Lindeborg stays in?
Yes.
You do. Okay.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, look, I think these guys, if they get any first round, like their agent comes back and is like, we're getting first round sniffs, cents, whatever, we're staying in. You know what I mean? Even
you realize he'd be bypassing the opportunity to play with a Daymara here.
Well, that is true, and I'm sure he has thought about that in consideration. But I would assume that Dusty May and Duke, I'm sure Shire and Schrage and everybody else has moved on to find like their replacements. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
as best you can. I mean, it sucks that these guys who used to be diamonds in the rough and hidden gems are now we got too many experts. Everybody knows everybody. So, you know, now Cedric Coward's going to go in the top 10, you know?
Yeah.
This guy should go like 30. Well, he should go 37 or something, you know, and somebody should be like super ecstatic about that. But now he's going to go number 6 and he's going to have all this pressure, and it sucks. But that's where we live in. God. We're all too smart.
Corey, you're killing me with these a Daymara jokes, but
it's all I ever try to do on the podcast.
I love it. I love
but
it.
Tate, I did want to ask. We brought it up. I mean, you brought it up, and and it's like it's becoming a reality, right? Like Cedric Coward's like literally sniffing around the top 10 now. So before we started recording, you mentioned that you had an opportunity to see him early. You got to see him a couple times, right? Just wanted to get your thoughts on him. How do you feel like, after seeing him in person this past weekend with Corey, as Corey mentioned before we started recording, just absolute mittens for hands, just unbelievable. But even in the gym, like watching him, like just kind of like moving around and warming up a little bit, like you could see some of the, I don't want to be harsh, but like some of the question marks with his game, right? But still shot the ball well. Defensively, he's got a lot of tools, a lot to work with. Just wanted to get your thoughts on Coward, how you feel about him as a prospect overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something in the water in Washington. We got to figure it out. There's a lot of talent, and this guy is, just a hidden, character that somehow goes to Wazoo. And Wazoo, I mean, if you look at who they had the year before, like Chinyelu, who just goes to Florida and wins a national championship. He's at Wazoo last year with Jalen Wells, and Miles Rice was the real star of that team. And now, people don't even know where Miles Rice is. You know what I mean? If you ask the common fan, but last year he was the talk of the town. We're going to pay him $5 million to go to Indiana, right? Or whatever the number was. I think it was like 1 million, but still $5 million sounds better. So that's the world that we live in. And I do think that Cedric Coward, what he was able to do for David Riley in the limited time he was able to play was impressive. And if you just watch those games, you're just like, wow, this guy is dictating terms. He has obviously, I mean, the wingspan is evident. He is just naturally a very long and gifted athlete, can play off 2 feet, does seem to have like some moments, like you said, where he can rush a little bit and maybe get out of sorts, but that kind of comes with the territory. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a really fun project. And I do feel like he's one of those guys that you can almost like mold him into whatever you need him to be, and he has that natural ability to do that. And he obviously, where he comes from, he has some humility to who he is. So I think that's a lot of the reason why a lot of these teams like him too, because they're just like, yeah, this guy's so naturally gifted and he's willing to do whatever. So big fan of Cedric Coward.
Yeah, I mean, I think OKC picks 15. I feel like that's kind of the floor. I feel like, a team like that, asset
trade
rich,
up for him. Yeah,
trade up for him. Like, I mean, let him go. I was talking to Kyle Mann, texting with him, and he's like, send him to the blue and just give him a bunch of reps. Let him work out his ball handling. Be patient. Like, that team has so much depth, but he just seems like pack his bags, get ready to learn Oklahoma City. That it just seems like a perfect marriage between philosophical front office and player for sure, especially with his background, like coming from the level of basketball that he's played at and where he's gotten to, that trajectory. He's definitely a guy who I think is going to be really interesting. He seems like he would be kind of like the sleeper who's going to outperform his draft slot. Like you said, like, oh, he gets taken 37th, 6 years ago. Who do you think is like the sleeper now that Coward, we're taking him out of the equation because he's going to go, top 10, presumably.
Right.
Who's kind of the sleeper that just from all the college basketball that you've watched that you're like, I know that the draft guys are, really into this guy, and this guy. I think this is kind of the sleeper who's going to outperform his spot.
That is a great question. I like Sorber a lot. Obviously that's why he was on the top of my mind, but just because I think he's really talented and nobody really ever talks about him. The Jace Richardson thing, like I'm a big fan of Jace, but the measurements, I mean, that's
tough. It's a tough one for him. Tough break.
It's almost damning, It's like, does he have to play point guard? I guess so. If so, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And if I almost feel like he should go back to Michigan State and play point guard next year, but that's maybe a conversation for another time. And maybe he can have that conversation with Izzo. Maybe some team tells him to do that. Danny Wolf.
I don't think his dad wants. Ooh, Danny Wolf.
Yeah, that would be. I'm just like looking at my list of guys that I just feel like Danny Wolf's going to end up being good, and we're all going to be like, yeah, of course, Danny Wolf is good. He's right there. We watched him. He's a creator. I worry about the defense, obviously, but I just feel like he's a guy that could just end up on a team, and whether it's Utah or whatever, where we're just like, oh yeah, Danny Wolf, nice, good minutes for Danny Wolf tonight. And he's like a late first round guy. I still like Walter Clayton a lot too. I know that's a basic answer, but I thought he was going to climb a lot more than he has. But again, the college basketball championship allure. Like it got Raymond Felton drafted 5 and Sean May drafted 13. Now you win a championship and people tell you to go back to college like Caravan. You know what I mean? So it's a crazy world we live in. Production, I'm still production over potential. We're making the fight happen. And I do think there's a lot of guys in that late first round range that are producers that are really good. Alex Condon from Florida, another producer. Had some struggles late in that tournament, but a really talented guy. So another name to throw out there.
Speaking of production, a guy that comes to mind for me that Corey and I, we've been talking about a good amount, a guy that I really, really like that played the same conference, the UNC, Maxime Raynaud, playing for Stanford, right? I think I just feel like he's a guy who, and we just talked about him on our latest pod, but him with the size that he has, the ball skills that he has, him being a floor spacer, but also to your point, extremely productive in college with over 20 points a game, over 10 rebounds, just an absolute beast on the boards. Wanted to kind of get your thoughts on him because once again, like I just love the production, love the size, and I love the very unique skill set that he has for a big.
He's ACC Player of the Year without Flagg. That's how good he was. Stanford, against stiff competition, he stepped up and played better. He's friends with Wemby. These are good things. And let's be honest, like he was too good to be playing college basketball last year. So this is a guy, I'm just looking at my list. I had him 37, and I feel like why can't a team in that late first round take a swing on him, you know? I would. He's so naturally talented and gifted, and obviously just like a really smart kid who wanted to be at Stanford. That was sort of the impetus to him staying at Stanford. He's just like, I'm a smart Stanford kid. I think that sells, you know, and he definitely is a first round talent. And, you know, I know the Spurs don't have a late first round pick, but maybe they could if they, you know, who knows what kind of package is going to be worked out with that number 2 pick. I don't know. So, you know, Maxie would be great, and he would love to play with some Frenchmen. So, you know, send him to Washington or send him to San Antonio. Let him play with Star or Reese Shea, send him to, the Hawks, whoever. Whatever French he wants to play with, he can go play with them. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I mean, you continue to see the importance of these big guys who can space the floor, and he measured in as legit footer.
For sure.
Legit floor spacer, and really special movement patterns for a guy that big. Just
fluid,
incredibly fluid. Like moves like he's one of these guys who was listed at 7 foot and then comes in at like 6'9.5". But
what's crazy is that I've seen a lot of people try to make this Brook Lopez comparison over the past few years with like every big. Like I saw it with Niederhauser, Yannick, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, he reminds you like but Maxie seems like, I mean, I know he went to Stanford too, and maybe that's why, but like the fluidity of the big man and his movements and his shot feels like a Brook Lopez, right? I mean, like he could be a Lopez. Like the later version of Brook, not the earlier version. But I think he's a really talented guy. So I'm team Maxie. Let's get him drafted.
Yeah, I think I saw a Vlad Golden also comp to Brook today too.
Right, it's wild. Good for Brook Lopez that everybody's watching. And honestly, Brook Lopez 2021 was incredible. What he was able to do. I mean, and in that series, he like did these things where like he would just play like on the block when they just needed like spot buckets to kind of keep them in the game. Like he was magical. So if they are Brook Lopez, that's a win. But I'm not sure. But maybe Maxie is.
If they're Brook Lopez, maybe start talking about them in the top 10 a little bit more.
Maybe get them like a Star Wars Club 33 membership or something. You know what I mean? Like they're like Brook Lopez. Do something like that. That would be the move.
Make an anime comic about them or something.
There you go.
I like the Clayton callback too. I mean, you talk about the production, like legitimate real deal shooter, and I look at a guy like Peyton Pritchard, who was also just like an absolute production monster in college.
Right.
And I think there are a lot of parallels there. And it's like, I think if you let Peyton Pritchard just run wild on another team, like that dude could be a 20-point scorer and like still be an impactful guy who plays a winning game. I feel like Clayton could do that, or he could slide into that Pritchard role on a really good team and bring a ton of energy off the bench and just shoot the lights out while whatever star Paulo Banchero and Franz or whatever, off doing their thing and using their gravity. So I like the Clayton call a lot. And he seems like a guy that's going to do really well in the interview process. And, these mocks that we all do, I mean, we're never all that accurate anyway, right?
Well, that's I think that's the thing that we, at the end of the day, like nobody knows anything, and even the people that know only make suggestions, right?
Yeah.
That's what we have to remember. Like everyone is making suggestions to people who actually don't really watch basketball and honestly don't really care. They just care about making the money from the said infrastructure, aka the owners, the governors, whatever you want to call them. So like at the end of the day, a decision is going to be made, and there are going to be smart people that are going to have to do dumb things. And, we have to remember this in these processes. So, we give everybody grace because nobody knows. And you never know. Like I said, you can't measure the mind, can't measure the heart. So we're all just guessing. That's the fun part, though. And then sometimes they hit like Anthony Edwards, and you're like, duh, of course he's the number one pick. He's incredible.
Sometimes smart people do dumb things, and you trade away a generational prospect, and you get rewarded for that with the number one pick in the in the draft anyway. So, it is what it is. But Tate, man, really appreciate you coming on, chopping it up with Albert and I on the show. Really happy we finally got to do this, and yeah, man, just appreciate having you. Tell the people, all the stuff that you got going on, where they can find you, on the World Wide Web.
I appreciate you. Yeah, the podcast is One Shining Podcast. We do college basketball, but we really do all basketball. I mean, FanDuel TV is also where you can find me. I host a show called Through the Ringer. Cousin Sal is on it every single week. We have a rotating cast of people. We have a lot of fun. And FanDuel TV has EuroLeague basketball. So I watch EuroLeague basketball, and I watch Carson Edwards, and he's incredible. So, if you're you know what's going down. So come join, come watch.
Junior.
Right. A lot of ballers out there. Go watch them. And I appreciate you guys having me on. I am down anytime. Thanks again.
Really quickly, Tate, before we leave, just want to ask you something that I've known about you for a while, and something that is near and dear to my heart. We're in 2025, so we don't say sneakerhead anymore, but sneaker connoisseur, and I know how much you love your kicks. Sneaker of the year for you so far, just before we go.
I mean, the Ant-Man, the gray Ant-Mans, the low gray Ant-Mans that he's got on are pretty enticing. You know what I mean? I am a cool gray guy. Anthony Edwards is like, he tickles my heartstrings. You know what I mean? It's like he plays my music. I don't know how to describe it any other way. I love Steph Curry. I have been enjoying the Steph Curry ride, but like I'm watching Anthony Edwards destroy this Warriors team that like I like. And granted, Steph isn't out there, but boy, is it beautiful to watch. So yeah, I think Anthony Edwards is winning the shoe game. I think he might be winning an NBA championship soon. So I think we have to give him the nod. I know he won the sneaker of the year last year, but like the hits keep coming. So I think that gray colorway is nice. And like I'm a Jordan 11 cool gray guy. So I mean, like I said, tickles my heartstrings. So shout out to Anthony Edwards, the guy. And I'm not even Adidas. I hate on Adidas. You know what I mean? My whole life. But
shout out to Adidas in the marketing campaign that they've been giving and
right.
Like the commercials and everything. And I got to say, because I'm with you, like I'm pretty much straight Nike. I've been coaching, high school basketball for a long time. And it's always Kobe's, it's KD's.
PGs, right.
PGs were huge.
They had a moment, right?
Steph had a quick moment, early on. I think
they ruined Steph. Like the Steph Curry 4 shoe that he came out with was a great shoe, and then like they did like the low white dad shoes, and then it was over.
It was a blip on the radar.
Yeah,
it has been a while. Like the JV kid, the young kids, the middle school kids, they'll rock the LaMelos. Those bright like
yeah, they look like Ed Hardy made the shoe. You're like, way to go, LaMelo.
but it's all Nike except this year. And Edwards just dominated with the high school crowd, and to own that, like the culture of that, like I think that's big.
And it's
That's
natural
big.
too, you know what I mean? Like Shea and Converse should be in the mix for that. I think Cooper Flagg and New Balance hope to be in the mix for that. Obviously, New Balance has got Murray, they got Kawhi too, but really Flagg is the guy that they're going for. But it's hard to sell shoes. Ask LeBron. Like it is what it is. Like there's not many people that move shoes, and the shoe market, there's no way to really navigate it and predict it. So for Anthony Edwards to do that, really, I mean, I know he has the whole campaign and commercial, but it kind of was grassroots. It was just like everybody's watching this guy. And those shoes are kind of fresh. And damn, this guy like talks that talk. He told Obama, like, I'm the truth. And he said it like, dude, like 10 toes down.
Like he was pissed.
Yeah. Like he was like, who the hell is this guy talking to me? So yeah, I just feel like, you know, it's hard to storytell, or have people tell your story, but like it's better when you almost just like let it speak for itself. And I feel like Anthony Edwards is talking now, but like he let it speak for itself. And now it's a beautiful thing. So it's fun to watch. I'm happy for him.
It's there's an authenticity to the entire thing.
Right.
You know?
And corporate America will ruin it at some point. You know what I mean? So like we just gotta soak it in like as much as you can. But like Steph was like this beautiful butterfly. And then they like put him in a glass house, and then like we get to like, you know, watch him fly around every once in a while. But like, you know, that's, you know, we got to enjoy it while it's happening right now. Jalen Brunson, by the way, like, I mean, whoever is making shoes or doing like, they should make him a shoe. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
New York City. Like,
let's give him a remixed Rasheed Wallace Air Force One or something.
There you go. That would be great. Like a lifestyle shoe, you know, it's like this is what Brunson wears like in the city as he walks around to games, you know, like that's the pitch. Because again, like we're not playing hoops all the time. People want, you know, the casual comfort shoes. It's beautiful. It's good stuff. All right. Well, we could talk shoes all day. I love it. Appreciate you guys.
Definitely, Albert. But yeah, again, thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Obviously, you know, we'd love to have you on again. And yeah, till next time, everybody. Appreciate everybody watching in the chat. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. If you're listening to the replay on the podcast, rate, review, be honest about it. You know, tell us how we did. You know, you want 4 stars. That's fine, but you know,
5 stars always. Even if you hated it, give me 5 stars. Yeah,
we want honesty on the show. But yeah, we appreciate everybody. Always do. It's draft season, baby. Officially, the draft lotto's over. We are in this, so a lot of good stuff coming up. And yeah, until next time, we're out. Peace.